Welcome back, everyone, to Worlds. We are halfway through the day. 4 best of ones already, 4 still to come. And the first one of those is G2 Esports up versus Dplus KIA. And of course, we got Chronicler straight from the cast on the desk because we need you.
Yeah, actually, I'm very pleasantly surprised. I think you know, the Gen G game was maybe not the best, but all the other games were actually really back and forth.
Yeah.
Very close affairs. I was impressed by BDS.
And having fun.
Yeah, Team Liquid looked pretty good. Lost.
Really good.
Really good.
C9 looked really good.
One.
Even I think BDS was pretty competitive in that last game, but this big one I think is really gonna tell the story of how EU's first day goes at Worlds, because it's a matchup that if G2 is for real, they're definitely looking to win.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to intro it. And in terms of kind of the relationship between these two teams also, Kobe, it's shaping up to be quite a rivalry internationally, specifically at Worlds, where for G2 it was really only 2019 where they got the upper hand, and after that it went away.
They started out throwing the first punch, then Damwon got really angry and kept on punching back. And
Never stopped.
This is actually one of my favorite of all time international rivalries. We actually don't get that many where we get to see them meet up in consecutive years, but the peak of ShowMaker and Canyon being able to come back and absolutely destroy was just so fun to watch. And that's what I really want for Dplus, to be able to see them get back to that point, because they're two legendary players. And as for G2, of course, everybody in Europe was, this is the team for Europe with all of the results, getting to finals, you know. They really, really want to be able to retake control of this rivalry.
It's a great point, and I think, Jat, that was a masterful setup as well, because we can skirt around it a little bit and go like, you know, it's hard, it's the LCK 4th seed, but if you want to say you have a genuine shot, this is a game you have to win. And I think when we look at how G2, as you already put, went about this season, it was fantastic for them. Of course, big changes. Yike in the jungle instead of Jankos. A different approach after MSI, which was very disappointing for them, Jat. But the question is, can they do anything right now against Dplus KIA?
I mean, looking at the stats that are on your screen, the answer would be yeah, because they were absolutely dominant in the LEC, but then it just calls into question what you think the overall strength of the region is and how G2 was able to improve shadowboxing themselves, because they were dominating everyone they played against in the LEC. But I've also heard that they have been very competitive in all of their scrims and are very confident coming into this game.
And they basically did have a really big goal after MSI. I think we hear this from many teams when they come back from an international tournament and didn't have the result they wanted. But they wanted to have a lot in their wheelhouse. They wanted to not just go off early leads. They wanted to make sure that Yike, who they have been growing as this jungler, could approach a lot more. But this is a hard matchup for Yike.
Yeah, I mean, Yike is an incredibly exciting rookie here, you know, coming from Europe with the success that he's had. The Belvest speciality with is an extremely powerful champion right now. He's going against my personal jungle GOAT of all time, even if this wasn't the best year for Canyon, and he did have some int games as well as some POG games.
Yeah, it's really, so I was, first of all, very impressed by Yike and his individual performance. Even though G2's MSI wasn't too great, I thought he was a shining light during that tournament. For Canyon, if you didn't watch a lot of LCK, he was almost near the standing of POC points. I forgot what he ended up with, but he was only like 100-200 behind. So 1 or 2 games where he didn't get enough done. But in the games where he wasn't, he was actively the reason where, as a G2 with their usual swagger.
I think
looking great here.
It's connected to their, you know, their K-pop band release situation. That's why they're swagging it out, probably.
And they have to, because I do agree. Dplus, every single time at Worlds, I think the team. Last year was a great example. They overperform, right? We know that these players are good enough, Deft, ShowMaker, and Canyon in particular. But if you look at their form in both playoffs and throughout the year, in a best of 1 in particular, I find it really hard to know which form of the team you're going to get.
Yeah, I'm especially kind of heart-wrenching moment when you listen to ShowMaker's interviews.
Oh, don't remind me.
And he's talking about how, you know, League of Legends is much more a job, not as fun for him anymore. Sometimes he gets nervous now when he goes against big name players in the mid lane, and these sorts of things, especially when you're going against Caps and Caps' current form, where he has had a huge change, and that's been one of the biggest things that you're talking about, changing from MSI and the lane dominance that he has come up against.
Yeah.
The mid lane matchup is also incredibly important.
But I feel like we have a bit of a question mark if we are going to see an uptick, because a lot of the things that we desired from Dplus KIA, I think in the Gauntlet, for instance, we saw glimpses of that, and the question is that page now turned?
Yeah, and that's, I think, what we're going to find out in this first game as well, because we will have very early an idea, because if they fall behind, I don't think Dplus in their current form are really a team that is going to be able to do the Gen G thing and come back, or what JDG did just now, right? They need to be ahead early, so I'm expecting so much explosiveness, and we'll get an answer very early on as to what form they're in.
And Canyon can be that jungler again. He has it in him to be the best jungler in the world. I have a clip from regionals that they had a lot of success in. I just want to focus purely on Canyon in this moment and kind of fanboy. He is so good at controlling the jungle, and he is on Rell. He played a whole bunch of tank junglers this season, like so many other junglers, but he's going to do, because he has a pushing bottom lane here, he's starting topside as well, and then they made a recent change where a lot of the gold went into these small raptors, and with Rell you can EQ to steal all of the small raptors away, and then he uses his pushing bottom lane come up to ensure that he also counter jungles the red away from Grizzly. But what's really cool is how he covers the possible responses, because he jumps over the back of the wall, waits around for the Scuttle Crab, and then he goes and he burns mid lane mana to make sure that ShowMaker and the bottom lane will be able to defend the counter from his opponents and defend his blue buff, because he's working off the assumption that Grizzly has nowhere else to go except the bottom side of the map, and so he's able, by just burning the mana of Zeka there for his gank in the mid lane, ensure that he has bottom lane plus mid lane to protect that side of his jungle. And then as long as you go back and you take out the top side as well, there are no camps for your opponent to get back into the game on, and it allows Canyon to here get a reset and then get the first dragon for them as well. And that, even though there's no kills there, he did so much to control the state of the game purely through jungle, and yes, a very nice tool of pushing bottom lane.
And then in other games, he walks in as Diana and dies twice, right? And,
exactly.
And we won't know. What I do want to very shortly touch upon is that Kellin, to me, is going to be the big difference maker. I think Kellin, his development, and the fact that DK has prioritized him as the main support is big. He was, to me, the biggest change in consistency for the team. And particularly against G2, with how with how good Mikyx has been playing. If Kellin doesn't uphold that level, then I don't even know how the rest of the map is going to look like.
I like it. There are a lot of questions. You do mention it, of course. Mikyx was crowned as the MVP, of course, for the whole year that was in the LEC, which is a big thing in terms of his resurgence also in career. He's also not been at Worlds for a long time. He's really looking forward to that. There's so many questions, but I'm going to find out what the fans predicted. Maybe that helps us guide us through it in our MasterCard fan predictions. And of course, every day you can head over to @MasterCardGG on X to cast your vote. But they went for G2 with 60%, and Dplus KIA with 40%. You know, we know that the G2 fans are very loud on X, chat.
They absolutely are, and I am still fascinated by this matchup. I mean, we talk about ShowMaker not having confidence this year, and how when he was at his best, he was the best mid laner in the world in 2020. And we also look at someone like Caps, who the story, if he was able to win Worlds this year, would be so unbelievably amazing, because he was a World Finalist 2018, World Finalist 2019, and advanced from groups in 2020. But it's been 3 years now since he's been able to make any level of noise at Worlds, and I do feel like G2 is better this year than they have been since 2020, which gives them the biggest chance. And the fact that they're just up against this team of like former world champions in Dplus. Deft won it last year, but their form is so questionable. Like we've been talking about it this entire time. There are just more unknowns in this game to me than there are in any other matchup. So I like that this prediction is 60-40, but that's pretty close to 50-50.
Close, yeah.
And I understand why, because this G2 team has so many of the things that made fans fall in love initially with the success of G2, which is the attitude behind it. They have the flexibility of champion pool as well. Everybody remembers the Pyke days, but now you're getting the Lissandra counter into the Rakan from Mikyx. You're getting all types of stuff from BrokenBlade in the top lane, pulling out the top lane Swain and everything. They have the creativity, they have the swagger to back up being by far the best team in Europe.
And let me pose a simple question then. Jat said it already, you have to dare to call yourself a favorite in this matchup if you are a G2 supporter. But what does it come down to? If we see a ShowMaker and Canyon with great synergy again, I don't want to say of old 2020, but on a very good level, does that immediately kind of dispel that notion? And does that make Dplus KIA then immediately a favorite, or how does that work?
I think with best of ones, it's going to be hard to tell, but I would say if you're trying to measure the peak of either team, I would say peak Dplus would beat peak G2, but that is literally not how League of Legends works. It's about what form you have on the day and what happens, and in that case, I would actually give a slight edge to G2.
All right, let's see what happens and head over to our casters for this really exciting matchup.
Thank you very much, guys. It is an absolute pleasure to be here alongside a legend of the European seed. We had to start properly. If we're introducing the first seed, we may as well introduce Vedius, myself as Sterix, part of the LPL, but you're more important.
It's an honor to finally have you here at the World
It's
Championship,
my honor.
my friend. No, it really is. We've enjoyed your commentary for the LPL for a while now. You're going to start with a bit of EU versus LCK.
Which is great.
And it's a bit of an interesting rivalry. The desk has already broken it down so much. We've seen these two organizations fight throughout the years. In recent history, it has been Dplus that has been the victors. But as a European, I'm feeling confident about what this G2 roster is bringing to the World Championship.
I think you should. Again, you know, I've kind of coined this as like my favorite team in EU simply because they play a little bit more like the LPL style, right? They're versatile, they're bloody, they're crazy. You never know what to expect and like what lane to look out for in G2.
It's very true. Like in terms of draft, I'm very excited to see what they will be bringing out. But we're going to get introduced to the teams as they make their way onto the stage.
I mean, again, you're looking forward to seeing the debut of these two teams at Worlds so far. G2 first out. This is a team with high expectations, Vedius. Very high expectations, and to renew what was done to them last year.
Oh yeah. Young rookie Yike joining the roster in the place of Jankos, kind of the GOAT jungler of Europe. A lot of weight was kind of put on his shoulders.
Yep.
But so far he has lived up to those expectations and he is delivering. The return to many staples. BrokenBlade doesn't have the best international record.
Nope.
Caps definitely does. Back-to-back World Finals in 2018 and 2019. Hans Summer, the last time we saw him at the World Championship on Rogue, he was an absolute monster on things like the Misfortune. And Mikyx, our MVP, our standout player of the year, the player that even managed to make some top 25
A
lists.
lot of them. I think people were kind of crazy for not putting him in at that point where Western players are usually left out. So again, high praises for G2, but the first seed of Europe is now going up against Korea's very own Dplus KIA, or Dplus KIA, excuse me, to correct myself. And straight away, you can say that this might be the fourth seed, but after last year's Worlds, I'm not sure that the weight of that goes down any bit.
What an exciting opportunity. They did struggle throughout summer season, but as we got to the gauntlet, it really did feel like this team found their form, and we've been hearing scrim rumors for both of these organizations that they're looking good, they're in form. We've been hearing interviews from Dplus, rather. It's going to take us a while.
I did too, man.
Saying that they have found their form, they're finding their synergy, and now we're going to get to see it here. Best of one between G2 Esports and Dplus KIA.
And a quick transition note there as well, you know, throughout the season, we've seen Bible a little bit coming through when they needed a stronger voice. Seeing Kellin back in the role as well with the hands, and especially when you're alongside someone like Deft, it makes a lot of sense. That world champion from last year on the DRX roster, old reliable, I think, to be said, for Dplus KIA, that they can look towards with the experience at a world championship like this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's an exciting one, Hysterics. We are kicking off our casting debut with an absolute banger. I'm curious as to what the draft is going to show us, because you already mentioned it earlier. G2 are the chefs of Europe. They love to cook up some crazy stuff. Top lane in particular, we saw some Swain, we saw some Kled. We've seen some Lissandra support out from Mikyx to answer things like the Rakan. They've kind of wanted to build this level of, we want to be able to play any style and answer any style. Let's see what Dplus have been cooking behind the scenes, because these teams, I know for a fact, have not scrimmed each other at all. They are coming into this tournament completely blind as we get ready for draft.
Thank you, finally. Let's cook another one up here. G2 and Dplus. As we jump on in, I'm more curious about some of those picks. You also enabled the top side conversation, Vedius, which has to be things like the Yone too, I want to throw in, from someone like BrokenBlade. Blue side for G2, Dplus on red, and straight away the Kellin versus Deft.
Kellin.
That's respect.
That certainly is. Nico also going to be taken away from Caps. You have to imagine things like the Orianna and the Taliyah will make their way onto the ban table relatively soon. Jarvan going to be taken away from Canyon, so some of that early game playmaking going to be denied from him. The Kalista respect towards Hans Sama. When you think of Hans Sama, two champions that always come to mind, Draven and Kalista.
I want to see if the other one gets banned away. With the Nico off the side as well, something that we have seen in fruition so far in the World Championship. Will another jungler follow suit? A lot of Kai'Sa first picks have come through. The Zyra Khan still on the table as well. Vedius, anything else you want to note that feels like it needs to be priority here for G2, as Lee Sin's also taken away?
I think Orianna, if it's up and available, they're just going to grab it for themselves.
Okay.
The question is, do Dplus feel like it's a big enough threat? Do they think that they have an answer to it? And it seems like that they do. G2, will they prioritize this Orianna? Will they give Caps one of the best mid laners on the current patch?
I feel like on the other side, ShowMaker, who started ramping up a bit towards regionals, is no fly to that champion either. Betty, she hit the nail on the head. Looks like that first pick going to be looked over in response of giving away maybe a stronger bot lane to Deft and Kellin.
Well, bear in mind that the Taliyah is still open. We know that Canyon is very versatile when it comes to the jungle, but he's also someone that loves to invade, loves the power farm, someone that will often find ways to have scaling impact. But no, they're just going to answer with a high priority on the Alistar. We did see this a lot over in the LCK. They love their Alistar, but you got to be mindful because G2 Kog'Maw Braum, something that they love to pick into things like Alistar, gives them lots of range, a lot of scaling power, and something that they don't even have to prioritize right now. They may very well... oh no, they're going Draven!
Yes. You said it, there's 280 carries that you need to respect against Hans Sama, and one of them's left open, and G2 enter World, say, let's watch.
So at MSI, Gen.G did the same thing, and Gen.G made fun of them on the Draven. So Deft into Hans Sama's Draven is going to be an exciting one. The Maokai, an EU standard, something that we've loved to play throughout the season finals and summer. Going to be in the hands of Yike, something he's been playing a huge amount of. So no stranger there.
I want to develop into how Yike's been as a player as we get into game, especially with a pick like this to open things up. On the other side, though, do Dplus go for jungle, or is it about cementing Deft in the bottom side before Deft gets banned out?
So Varus is a champion that has pretty good range, can play at distance when playing up against a Draven, but also ties in with the composition that they have with pretty solid poke and range, right? Azir and Varus playing around these neutral objectives can be very difficult to close the gap on. And I think G2 is going to be looking at something like a potential... Well, I wonder what direction they'll go, whether they want something like a Leon or if they want a hard, super aggressive bot lane 2 versus 2. Maybe Rakan for a little bit more team fight prowess if they're worried about how many engage options they have.
Would something like Brom be okay here, Vedius? Because remember, again, you've talked about it in different contexts, but with a lot of engage options on the side, a lot of lockdown already I see from Dplus. I feel like some exemplified support options might be the choice.
It depends if G2 feel that Maokai is enough by himself to start the fights. Bear in mind, depending on what direction they go in top lane, you can already see the Jax being banned away from Dplus. Thinking about what direction that Dplus could be thinking, Renekton is of course still up and available. We know that Canna does love to play a number of carries, but when we look back at when he was making his way through the regional gauntlet, it was mainly Renekton, K'Sante, and Jax that we saw from him in the top lane. With K'Sante taken off the board and Jax, will they look to remove the Renekton as well? Or perhaps they're looking to leave that open so they can have a relatively safe line?
It's a great question. Again, BrokenBlade could punish it as the Pyke against Vicky.
That's what I'm saying, man. The cooking. Like, there's so many random picks that you've always got to be aware of.
That's what makes it so hard to ban against him. You have to go in so many different directions at once, and that's why I was getting excited casting G2 coming into today, because, again, I feel like they're my little LPL team over in Europe, as Rumble's also taken away, which has also been a strong pick rising up in the meta here.
So I wonder if G2 is kind of encouraging Dplus to go for that Renekton pick. They're kind of saying, you know what, maybe you should go for this champion with Rumble taken off the board. There's not that many things that have that can be a good answer into it, but of course they have the Kled. They're ready for champions like that, and I think Dplus is doing the smart thing here. Just lock in your jungle, get something that can give you a little bit of engage. Rell, someone that we haven't seen a huge amount in the jungle so far in this tournament, but still very prevalent, very strong, and I think is an easy way for Dplus to have good engage and follow up when combined with the Alistar.
But it also means we've got top last pick here on red side, so Vedi is setting up Canna a little bit to deal with what G2 have to say. Now all cards are going to come onto the table. What does BrokenBlade play?
It's a big question. Will it just be the Renekton? Will they play it safe? Brings into question then, will this be a Braum or will this be something that G2 want to go for a little bit more engage? I'm looking at the Rakan as an option, Renata as well. Very powerful lane, and they're going to lock it in.
All right, so the 2v2 strengthened up. We're already looking inquisitively down towards Han Summer on the Draven, but now it's for that R5. What happens up in the top side? We know solo queue, there's been a lot of Quinn going around, but here at Worlds, haven't seen it so far. Other explosive matchups we've been looking to see, like the GP. I'm theory crafting here, Betty. I'm trying to throw some things out,
Jayce
but it could be simple.
That's what it's looking like. Of course, we know that Canna is a very experienced Jayce player throughout his history. It's been something that he's very happy to go back on. And you look at the composition from Dplus, range, poke, being obnoxious. It fits very nicely into their composition.
Yep.
G2 is very much about the bot side of the map. Don't be surprised to see G2 do a full clear bot side into early level 3 play from Yike. It was something we saw a lot from them during the regular season. You imagine that they're just going to leave BrokenBlade largely on an island. Wouldn't be surprised to see Dplus actually invest a couple ganks up towards the top side. But maybe Canyon's priority will be making sure the bot gets through laning phase largely unharmed.
Okay.
Because you look at the scaling, you look at the range that they have. G2, outside of Maokai, they don't really have the easiest engage tools unless Renekton can find a flank, which means that as long as they can get first onto the objective, force G2 to come into them, they have a lot of tools and options to just kind of chip away at G2's health bars and then go for the big fight afterwards.
So my further follow-up question is, if it's all chilled from there, if they do get through the lanes, then are we just looking towards the later the game goes as well, the poke being unmatchable, unbeatable?
I do feel like that unless G2 can find big team fights. You look at their straight 5v5, they have a lot of damage. Renata can be so impactful in terms of space control. Maokai the same. Orianna Shockwave, you know how her scaling works so well. And Varus, with very limited mobility, if Renekton can get onto that backline, it can be chaos for him to actually play the game.
Very true.
So it ultimately comes down to the space that they all control, the pre-fight expectations. How much damage can Dplus get with their poke composition? Will G2 be able to find a quick engage where they can gain access onto the backline? It's an exciting one.
Oh, yeah.
G2 versus Dplus. We're finally getting onto the Rift Hysterics. Are you excited?
Oh, my God. What a question, Bettis. Of course I am. G2 versus Dplus. It's first versus fourth, and in the past, people would discount Europe. They'd say, oh no, it's against Korea. It's going to be too hard to ask for. But this team means business. And as we talked about, they're trying to rectify the mistakes of the past and show what EU has to offer as their best team, and Vettius, may I say, their best team handedly. Watching back against Fnatic, this team is legendary.
Oh yeah, I mean, when we look at the entire year, spring is where they kind of dropped the ball. They had a bit of a meta crisis. Caps in a bit of, this is all about the mind games. He sidesteps it. Deft, mentally broken. Obviously, just looking for a bit of poke there. ShowMaker able to get a bit of damage down. Running the Halo Blades on the Azir, so looking to go for some of those early quick trades. Looking across some of the other summoner spells, looking to see if there's anything too crazy from either side. Press the attack on the Renekton as opposed to the typical Conqueror.
Yep.
Once again for those short trades. But overall, nothing too crazy. And you can see the comment on Deft suggesting that he is going towards the poke. But early information gained from G2. As don't be surprised to see this early push. And we talked about early clear from Yike. Something that he's often done on the Maokai is look for that full clear in bot into then an early gank. G2 as a bot lane 2v2 will also try and early shove in this wave so they can get a very early bounce back to then put that extra pressure on. Whether or not they'll choose to do that in this game, we're yet to see. Yike, though, already level 2 looking for a gank bot.
You're on the nose, but he's straight away walking in, but there is a defensive ward from Dplus in their river, so Canyon sees it coming. He's tried to redirect, but again, a ward from G2 to spot the same, and Canyon's already just forced off.
I mean, Hansummer and Mikyx already have level 2. They can use their pressure to offer some assistance. Yike actually stealing away the Gromp at level 2. Really leveraging the power of this level 2. Hansummer can just keep them underneath their tower.
Wow.
Already getting a bit of chip damage. Caps not getting the best trades in the mid lane as ShowMaker leverages that Hail of Blades.
And again, he's walking up for it too. At least getting the phase rush to get out of there, but Caps now at 1/4 of his HP.
So, Yike is able to steal away a camp. So a small advantage gain for him. Will now move over towards the rafters. This will slow down Canyon just a little bit as BrokenBlade looks to get a bit of a push in top. But the most important thing for G2 here is Yike has made it very difficult for Canyon to actually play around the bot side of the map.
Yep.
By already forcing him off his Gromp and knowing that he's going to be pathing towards the top side of the map, G2 have created a map state that they want, where all of the pressure is being thrown towards BrokenBlade, and he can act as this weak side, while Hansummer and Mikyx can leverage their 2v2 strength to continue to gain advantage.
I love the stories we set up, you know, talking about G2 in their regular season, moving into playoffs, and moving into that final, of course, where the aggression you see by this team and the versatility in their playstyle is shown on the Rift in each and every game. Already there with a handshake bot, you can see Hansummer continuing to push in, a CS lead building up, Deft and Kellin stuck under the turret, and a plate in under 3 minutes is kind of insanity.
Both mid laners are going to invest in early TP, get back to base, spend some of their money. Amptone picked up for ShowMaker, along with the Dark Seal for Caps. But that pressure bot lane is unrelenting from Hansummer and Mikyx so far. The early Scuttle Crab picked up for Yike means that Canyon will likely path towards bot. Will get spotted out, and that's going to be an annoying thing for Dplus to deal with those saplings as the game progresses. This is why I talk about Dplus trying to get on those objectives first as well, because when you're trying to face check into all of these saplings, when you're trying to get onto the objective, the amount of zone control they have, you're trying to walk through a choke point against a Maokai and a Renata, it's going to be very difficult for Dplus if they are late to those objectives.
And if you don't pay the respect, then you get punished, right? Orianna, Renekton on top. I feel like there's a lot of tools, as you're talking about in draft, where even when it gets to the 5v5s, G2 can play that versatility again to repeat the point. Canyon at least getting the reverse scuttle on the bottom side after getting spot out on top. But apart from that, CS rather even as we go for first back through jungle. And just kind of optimize to see how bot will be played out and if there's anything that Dplus can do to mitigate that loss so far.
BrokenBlade really needs to grab this wave. Typically, you'd be looking at a potential dive here, but Canyon already going back to base, not quite level 4 yet. Is a little bit behind. BrokenBlade trying to do what he can to catch, but this is not an easy matchup for him.
Canna's run out of mana a bit there. BrokenBlade can get a bit of retribution holding out for now, but that's another CS lead to talk about up in the top side. So it is balanced out across the map. No gold lead to speak of here at 5 minutes, but as we go back to clearing, it's still important to know that Canna's not the best top laner we talked about from the LCK, right? He's not the big outstarter, a standout, I should say. I feel like BrokenBlade is, though. On the other side in EU, BrokenBlade has been widely aggressive, fun to watch, to say that again, and you know, Canna showing up here to start off their Swiss tournament.
Yeah, and
it's pretty big.
It's funny that you talk about that because in this game, like, they've pretty much just left him to the wolves.
Yeah.
They've said, you know what, you do your best.
Sorry, bud.
But we know that you're going to get counterpicked. Our whole goal in draft is to play towards the bot side of the map, and Deft is no stranger to having pressure thrown on towards him. But we'll see how well he weathers the storm. So far, his farm has been spectacular.
Yep.
He's doing a great job, even though there is constant abuse underneath this tower. Alistar in the early levels, especially against a Renata, is not an easy lane for them to play, but credit to them. Deft and Kellin having a fantastic laning phase for the time being. And overall, nothing too crazy. So the gold remains even. We're 6 minutes in, and we're going to be looking at those potential early dragons, early heralds. Like, this could be a good opportunity for G2 to go for that early dragon, and just as I say, they can start that one off.
So we're handshaking, right? We're expecting Dplus to be hitting up Herald soon, Vedius, because I feel like, you know, with topside pressure that we've seen with a good lane, it seems like that just seems to be the deal, right?
Well, something you're likely going to see is a back soon from Hansummer and Mikyx,
Okay.
and then they'll likely send Mikyx up to the contest, or they may even send Hansummer up if they really want to make sure they get
Hang
that
on,
Herald.
flash away from Caps. Canyon not even needed. ShowMaker just pops the ulti, and that's someone that's gone.
ShowMaker looking for a play in mid. You heard the Dest talking about how it's been kind of sad to see the trajectory of ShowMaker this year, how he's been kind of struggling, but I've only heard positive things for him coming into this tournament, and you can see that level of confidence, looking for a play, working with this jungler to find an opportunity, getting that flash out of Caps, especially with the Herald looming in the near future.
Yep.
Definitely going to give Dplus an opportunity and a player to look at for a potential pick.
Emperor's Divide, though, we'll mention, with that being down, Vedius not the shortest cooldown in the game,
Oh,
so
no.
with that ulti not being up, Shockwave in comparison for Caps is Yike versus Canyon. Just going to beef up a little bit for the Scuttle Crab. Yike has Smite, so does Canyon, zoning him away. Good handshake, waiting for it. No, it's stolen. And a nice little trade, Canyon getting the better of him. And in fact, with that, CS lead as well in jungle that's come out of nowhere after that early game.
Nicely done there by Canyon, very close to level 6. Should be able to get that after securing the Gromp. The problem for Yike is he spent a lot of time just hovering bot, making sure that either, well, looking for a gank or even just making sure that they can get that wave underneath the tower, which gave Canyon a huge opportunity to really do another full clip, catch up in experience. And BrokenBlade also doing pretty well upside in the top side of the map. Herald now is alive. We can see that Draven still pathing towards the bot side of the map. And it's Renata that you now need to keep your eyes on. We already saw Kellin looking for a bit of something as he moved towards mid and then contested that bot side scuttle. He's now in the bot lane 2v2, so Mikyx going to answer for the timing. Flash!
Hang on, BrokenBlade! You're insane! Flash burnt from both in the end, ignites down, Caps comes up and threatens topside. Now the Herald swing, let's just throw it back.
Very well played from BrokenBlade. I was not expecting that, and I feel like Canna wasn't either. Notice as well that BrokenBlade recognized that he could get out of that. I think it was just about getting those flash trades to set up for a potential play later. He E'd in, but then the second that the stun finished, he E'd back out again. You know, he didn't commit too much, and he just traded summoner spells trying to make the laning phase that bit easier as Hansama now looks for a trade.
It's good onto Kellin, but once again, no cigar here for the finish up. But Herald, we started off the back of that, so Yike here on his Maokai. That, mind you, is flawless, of course, at the moment in 2023. 8-0, by the way, fun stat for you. Is pretty hot as Mikyx setting up on a Deft, instant cleanse away, but will save his life, ignites down. Couple of autos too, Kellin with the flash away as well. And G2's bottom lane matches it. Oh my God! This team's pretty hot.
Hansama's Draven. And MSI, Genji left this champion up in their first game. And they made fun of Hansama. They said they didn't care, and Hansama has been furious about that ever since. He returns to the international stage and he finds a 2v2 kill. First blood to Hansama.
And it's a big cash in as well. Look at the CS numbers there. Surely that item's coming on board as that's huge for G2 when we talked about the win condition being bot in the early game, Fedius. It's online.
It's also just such a huge confidence play. Look at this, initiated by Mikyx, forcing Deft back out of the fight. Kellin then does what he can to try and create space. But Hansama, he knows that with the number of stacks he has, that execute damage is more than enough. He has a level advantage. Flash auto ult, and they find themselves first blood. I wasn't keeping track. Did you see how much gold he got off the back of that shutdown?
I did not. I was too excited by the flash forward.
Unfortunately, I missed it, but that gold is going to propel him. Now, Canna, no flash.
Well, he's in a bit of trouble too. G2 looking to replicate across the map. Just waiting as here we go. The Ents go marching one by one, and Yike says hurrah! With BrokenBlade on top as well. That's stun out. There's no flash from the trade before. Canna's like, just make it stop. And G2 with another with a 2-0 start.
He does get himself another plate. He realizes if I'm going down, I may as well get a bit of gold to compensate. This will give an opportunity. Are they going to use the Herald top? Don't see why not. Typically, you'd expect them to keep funneling that gold towards Hansama, but instead they're saying, you know what? Let's just actually give more damage to BrokenBlade. Already in the bot lane 2v2, he was able to get that cash in. You were struggling earlier, BrokenBlade. You forced that flash out from him. And now look at this. The early game gold is ballooning in favor of G2. 2K is the advantage they now find themselves with.
It's huge. Top, bot, both winning out. CS lead there. Top is reciprocated with BrokenBlade earlier on. Remember, we're talking about Canna having a lot of influence up there, doing well in the lane. No longer with 4 plates taken up topside. So really good to see that in their debut, G2 is replicating what they did in their domestic league, Vedius, up here against the LCK 4th seed.
They need to keep it up, though. We've seen a North American team and an LEC team get an early lead against these good teams and then not quite be able to convert it. And while you would expect G2 to be better at some of the lower seeded teams at being able to convert that, you've always got to keep that trepidation, you know? Especially a team like Dplus, you can't underestimate players like Canyon, like ShowMaker, being able to find those plays. They've done it so many times at international events, and this is the duo that so many are excited to see return. So let's see. We get closer to the 14-minute mark. The second dragon of the game is available. ShowMaker does have pressure in mid, moving into the bot river, and Canyon has snuck his way into the enemy jungle.
No top laner TPs available. We've got Caps and ShowMaker, if anything happens, to return to the scene of crime as Canyon's behind enemy lines. No vision there. Wondering where he is. This crash down could come through, and Mickey's unaware, but they're back in time. Never mind. Canyon waits it out, and Hansama goes back for his Trinity Force.
Canyon showing great respect, and Caps on the roam here.
Wow. Most agile Orianna we've ever seen. Canna, his flash is back up and available, but he gets stunned up. Not going to use it. He knows he's dead as Caps picks up his first kill. And G2 continuing to hold that top side.
Caps holding onto the shockwave in the event that Canna did flash so that he could bring him back in. Yike now getting engaged on.
It's just a crash down though. The Bramble Smash slows things down as Yike's okay, but look at top. First turret blood in under 14 minutes.
Not what I was expecting to happen. The TP as well for Caps can bring him back to mid so he can still catch this wave. Dplus though know they have a window to start off this dragon. Caps hasn't had an opportunity to base, doesn't have his mythic. Do G2 still want to fight this? Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. With the ulti from Yike, it's there, but the Magnet Storm and the boot bag! ShowMaker, playmaker! All you blinkers out there, stand down. It's a double over to Deft.
You can't underestimate the man in the jungle. Canyon finds a fantastic engage. G2, they tried to set up the play from the bot side of the map with the collapse coming from the mid lane. Canyon sees that opportunity, knows they have numbers advantage just by attacking the pincer, and they make it look clean. We're going to get a quick replay of this top one. An overall simple play. Canna chooses not to flash. The kill goes in favor of Caps. But look at this engage now. Again, look at the mini-map. Mikyx and Caps are coming from the top side. Flash engage, the follow-up from Kellin. Draven doesn't get to move. The follow from ShowMaker too. Just clean execution there from the 4-man of Dplus.
And Deft, who was down in lane, who got cashed in earlier on, or rather Kellin did, now has gold, now has the Duskblade as well. And all of a sudden, DK's bottom lane, bet is quite relevant again. As we look at the Mastercard lane economy snapshot, it is looking good for G2 and gold, but the problem is with that one play, DK are now a threat again.
I mean, the gap didn't seem as big as it was, that's for sure.
That is true.
But you're now looking at like, okay, G2 recognize that Dplus is still a team you can't afford to underestimate. The momentum was in your favor. And G2 do have a tendency, the way they lose domestically is they get cocky, you know? When they get that big lead, they sit there, they take risks, sometimes they'll skip steps, and sometimes they need that reality check, and Dplus just gave it to them.
So it's a good thing, what just happened?
Well, from G2's perspective, yeah, but it's also a good thing from Dplus's perspective.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. Okay, I'll take that in mind as first items are coming across the board. At the very least, for DK, getting some gold on Deft I mentioned before. Talked about that first item, getting into transition as well, as he was quite behind. So, see what G2 do now as they set themselves up on the second herald of the game.
They'll likely use this to try and unlock mid lane. It can be quite difficult to siege against champions like Varus and Azir with the amount of wave clear and poke that they have at their disposal.
True.
But using this herald, it gives you so much more agency to just break down that tower, especially with slightly shorter range AD carries with champions like the Draven, for example. They've now moved both mid laners down towards bot. ShowMaker continues to have that pressure. Love how he's using the Hail of Blades to constantly trade onto Caps and then use that initial trade to then help clear out that wave and gain pressure. Kellin covering for his top side of the map, knowing that Herald just dropped. There's a potential risk there of Canna being in danger, but also covering in the event that BrokenBlade oversteps.
I think smart map movements, we all know from the LCK historically, are still existent in the 4th seed here. As a quick note, Dragons up in 2 minutes, but right now, it seems like DK are covering their bases with some vision. Bot side, that's going to be cleared out by Mikyx, who is once again moving as a 3-man unit, while DK are not willing to step up and get caught by this hard engage.
So G2 now bringing BrokenBlade down into mid. They have numbers advantage, which makes it easier for them to siege onto this objective. You can see Caps joining the fray as well. ShowMaker going to go back to base, has the TP.
All Chains of Corruption lands. Han Summer out with the cleanse. Arrow not going to hit. That's a good Renata ulti though under the turret, but it won't translate. Caps setting up for the potential shockwave as they just walk away and the Herald won't open up the map.
Love the response from Dplus. I think they did all the right things. They hold on to the tower. They don't really give Han Summer an opportunity to hit onto it. That ultimate from Deft was exactly that, a zoning ultimate to try and force Han Summer away. It connects, forces a big summoner spell out from him, and they keep that tower alive while Canna also gets the opportunity to push in that top wave. And you can see that CS discrepancy from earlier starting to build once again. So even though he is finding himself at 0 and 2, he's still not that irrelevant when it comes... Sorry, he's still relevant when it comes to the gold.
Go, yeah. I mean, considering that Canna had a bit of an early CS lead, I guess that 20 does translate in some regard. I want to also point out that, you know, you talked about Chains of Corruption before. That is, that's pretty much back up. I mean, this is the cooldown reduction, or rather ability haste, for those new age people who aren't 40 years old anymore. How long ago was ability haste, or rather cooldown reduction?
I'm too old to remember.
Those are the good old days, though, eh?
we start talking about the good old days, we'll start talking about Garen again. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You got to be careful.
We have done full circle, though,
Exactly.
to be fair. I'm
That's
just waiting
true.
for an LPL team to pull it out, because that will happen. Actually, the Shy's playing later.
That's true. He
So-
is. You think he's one of those players?
I think he could be. He's definitely a Quinn
Wouldn't he
player.
just, I was going to say, doesn't he want to play into the Garen?
Oh, yeah, he does. Let's
Canna
pause on this
now.
one, though. You're right.
Does he know?
He does not. Ward down. BrokenBlade going to try, but finish the job this time. Flash is available. Ulti with the Dominus. BrokenBlade 2. Not going to pull any triggers, but again, showcasing his strength in the 1v1.
And just a quick trade there from BrokenBlade. Nothing too crazy. The Dragon now spawning in 5 seconds. BrokenBlade has TP along with Canna. Small level advantage for BrokenBlade, but you imagine Canna should be able to make that one up relatively soon. G2 with fantastic vision control around it. You can see control wards littered around the bottom sides. It should be very difficult for DK to force their way in, and we talked about Dplus being first on the objective. There are now all the saplings in position that are going to be extra bit of poke coming out from the AP Maokai. And you know what? Dplus is just saying, we're fine, you can have this. We already took one Drake for you. We've slowed down the Dragon stacking. And we don't need to fight Draven right now. Trinity Force, Collector, no, we're good.
No
we're
way.
fine.
Not touching that with a 5-foot pole. Han Summer as well, just waiting for that next cash in. Remember, he did die once, but still built up a lot of gold. 202 stacks, you can see. Thanks to our little screen there. I love it. Unfortunately, LPL, I don't get that, Vedius. I don't get,
Just
you know,
have to
the
guess.
Draven stacks.
Or
I have
you
to
wait.
guess. I have to wait till Observer gets there. ShowMaker again, threatening it. But Caps holds onto the flash. That's a big brain move as teleport going in. G2 want to die this, and with Yike ulting in, ShowMaker has nowhere to go. BrokenBlade forces his flash, gets booped away, but there you go. Adoration for the crowd again. One more to hit the boot as Han Summer's already cashed in, but he's looking for more money. Trying to roll the dice as Mikyx tries to get them out of there. Berserk for the time being. Running back in, G2 want to re-engage.
It's chaotic, but it's going in G2's favor. They'll find another kill, make it 2. 4 down on the side of Dplus. Deft is continuing to push in mid lane, but it started with ShowMaker looking for that play onto Caps. He doesn't get Caps to flash. They played that game of chicken, and I was a bit question mark paying the TP from BrokenBlade. He was in the river, and he was sitting there, and he wanted, like, no, I got to get here for Caps. I got to make sure I can offer that assistance. And you'll see this initial play from ShowMaker. He has Cannon waiting in the wings. Caps doesn't flash. Then the TP comes through, but the rest of G2 are there to very quickly follow.
I love the patience here, Vedius, as well, right? Like, again, G2 forcing everything in that out, then launching on top. And Han Summer didn't cash in just once in that play. Cashed in twice. Draven with 3 items out of this replay, I feel like it's the reality that DK are going to have to go against.
It looked like a good response from DK initially, but then the moment BrokenBlade flashes in and Han Summer picks up another kill. What is that, 3 now for Han Summer? 3, 1 and 1. The BF sword completed. G2 is looking strong. 5K is the gold lead all of a sudden. And again, question marks came into G2. How are they going to look coming into the World Championship? What form will they show us? Well, they're continuing their season playoffs form. They're continuing that level of dominance and aggression. Zero hesitation play style, and huge props to BrokenBlade. Kind of the unsung hero, getting that flash from top lane, the way he's responding on the map. Great stuff from him in his debut game here at Worlds.
It's looking like a dub. I mean, win probability powered by AWS before, showing that G2 might have this in the bag. Now, of course, you're saying they've got to get it to the finish line, but massive gold lead now to 5K. The flash ball from Kellin doesn't work out. Re-engaged by Yike. The Ents are out, and here's BrokenBlade for the stun down. That might be a tanky Alistar, but out of the farmyard he goes. He becomes a patty again. Han Summer runs forward, gets more money in the bank. This guy's interest rate is huge.
You need to invest in Han Summer stocks right now because they are going up. G2 see this as an opportunity to start the Baron, but it's also a great opportunity for Dplus. Here we go, the Baron is kicked off.
Well, no ulti from Deft as they're stoned out by the whirling death over the wall. Canna can't do too much, and it all comes down to
Are they going
Canyon.
to flip this? Are they going to flip this?
Be very
Please
G2
don't
to do
flip it,
so.
G2.
You're saying please no, but in goes Canyon looking for it. The all-in, oh my god! They've set up DK to smack him down, and they get the Baron! Betty has said no, but DK say, oh yes! Yike running for his life, he's next to go down, and all of a sudden the tables have turned.
A triple kill for Canna. Canyon with another fantastic engage. G2 throw that 5K lead away.
Oh no!
And now Dplus have themselves a Baron. Oh no, Caps, he may have just thrown his life away. Can he get to safety?
Turret still stands. He'll be okay for the time being, but Venius, I shouldn't have said anything.
I saw it coming, man. I told you. I told you.
I thought I was safe because I'm not from EU. I could say those things, but I guess we're looking before the Baron, before it all went wrong.
It's, as the LCK casters would call it, the unique Europe Baron strategy. They get this initial pick onto Kellin, and they think with numbers advantage, they should be able to convert this into a fight, which is what they do. They try to be patient, but look at this engage. Canyon soaks up onto 3. Canna comes in. ShowMaker completely safe on the backline. The 3 of them, Canyon, ShowMaker, and Canna, just tear G2 apart. With Hansama dead, he's where all the gold is right now. And it's a clean team fight win. It's a Baron secure for Dplus. And now they're the ones knocking on towards the base of G2.
Let us begin the Red Bull Baron power play with a poke comp. Venius, you set this up in draft. This comp has range. And what do we know about poke comps in League of Legends? When they have Baron, when they have priority and longer lanes, it is a nightmare to play against.
I mean, they're going to have to find ways to get good flanks. They're going to rely on these objectives to find good fights. They want to contest the Ocean Dragon. Here we are. Dplus will start this one off. BrokenBlade has gained access into the river. Yike has the ultimate available.
All right, as it starts off, it's real slow here is G2 awaiting on Hansama to get in position. He's got both summoners available, I believe, at Cleanse almost up, however. The G2 are getting poked out. This is brutal. It's now Deft and Canna who are just so painful to deal with at the moment. Dragon going to reset, at least giving them a bit more time, but time is so good for DK.
Look at Canyon finding a flank once again.
BrokenBlade looking to zone him out. There's the poke again. Hits 3. He jumps in. Canyon flush for that. Won't get the steal and won't get over the wall. A bit of an oopsie as Yike's ult sets them away.
Canyon definitely fails his engage there. Puts G2 in a position to secure the Ocean Soul. And they've also been able to waste a lot of time. The Baron's going to disappear. But ultimately, it's brought Dplus back into this game very comfortably. 2 items, 3 items being completed across the board.
Oh, G2.
I mean, I'm not sure what they believe they can find here. You can see that bot wave is in a very awkward spot. Caps is going to try and push that one out. Canna, though, is becoming lethal. Look at these Jayce items. This poke, we already saw it in the last Dragon fight. It's only going to get stronger from here.
Yeah, the Impaler came out of nowhere here for the 3rd item. Sorry, Sorelda's grudge. I'm also living in the past. Remember Atma's
yes,
Impaler?
Yes, I do remember
That
Atma's
is not that
That's
item.
Very old school.
Yeah.
It'll be building Warmogs next if that was that.
Let's go for it. But the point is, Canna is 3 items strong, as you highlighted. Didn't even spend the time to upgrade the boots. That man is raw damage. And BrokenBlade, who was once ahead of the curve, is now behind once again. G2 still up in gold, and as you said, the position of the Ocean Soul is great. But I'm kind of curious as to how these picks come through. These longer lanes, look at the vision control that's set up across the map. DK see them coming from a mile away.
Yeah, I will say that Azir and Jayce just have a much easier time in these side lanes, right? Very safe in being able to push these waves out. Have plenty of tools to get away to safety. Also, Jayce in a 1v1 should feel pretty confident against a lot of what G2 have drafted. He's getting very close to level 16. He pretty much has a full level over BrokenBlade. And you look at the gold, like Hansama does lead, but in terms of everyone else, Dplus have been able to very quickly catch up. 3rd item now being worked on by ShowMaker, same for Deft. Death Cap, though, is finished for Caps.
It is.
But it means it will delay his 3rd item by quite a while, because that is a very expensive 2nd item.
It is indeed, but the power with the Dark Steel stacks as well is going to be quite relevant in this next fight. Baron up in a minute 30, that's what we'll look towards. That Ocean Soul in 3. So for now, getting set up, again, continuing that vision feels like what we have to focus on. And while we are talking about items, I just kind of want to highlight, while Deft got those picks before, not relevant, is it? No, it's not, just in case G2 decide to pull the trigger. But I will come back, Vedius, because 3 items on Draven. Hey, this guy is still big. I think Hansama can't be overlooked, even as we get to this point in the game, that Draven can still one-shot if he's set up on some of those visible carries.
Well, against range, it's just the question of can he actually deal the damage, right? Can he get close enough to hit the targets? Because this was the biggest concern of G2's composition. You prioritize that Draven. You got to remember, Deft is a Draven player himself. He's very familiar with how to play into, or the struggles rather, of what Draven can run into. And they're looking to take advantage of that. Great range on their side. They still hold on to this mid-tier 1. And G2's aggression has been dramatically slowed down. Now only a 1K, 1.3K gold difference.
Yep.
Baron spawning in 25 seconds. It is G2 that initially have vision around that objective. But Dplus in a much better position to contest than earlier.
Insane that that mid turret on that note is still up at 28 minutes in the game. I mean, DK holding map control still as they push out mid. In 10 seconds until we get towards the purple worm up in that top side.
Look at what they're doing now, keeping the push in mid to make it easier to control that topside river, get that vision control. The poke continues to chip away. Deft, can he land it? Not this time, but still. The pressure is on G2 now to sidestep this poke, make sure that the Baron isn't being started off, and that they can still contest this river.
DK waiting for this next one, excuse me. Feels like, again, the times might sync up, as there's the poke landing onto Mikyx, who tries to get that handshake out. But now Azir, stun turret's out, Caps gets hit by a shock blast. The trigger tries to be pulled, Canyon just walks up, and G2 walk back. It's this to and fro here from what seemed like such a successful game that is just now constant pressure that Deft alone could exert with a turret up.
Yep. Dplus are using their range fantastically, and they're going to start this one off. ShowMaker on the Azir will melt through this. They don't have access to the Baron right now. G2 have chosen to reset. They don't have any vision.
Yike,
this
the
is
only
gone.
one nearby. It's just gone, Betty.
It's gone.
It's just gone. It's a blind Baron. G2 had an idea, but not in the position to do anything about it. Instead, we have to put the hopes there for 25 seconds of this Dragon Soul.
So now it's a question of, can G2 find a good fight against Dplus? The Dragon will be the next point of contention. And if it falls in favor of Dplus, they will use their range, they will use their Baron to begin the siege against G2. And we talked about how they don't have the greatest engaged tools. With Renata, you ideally want to control space and find opportunities. Kellin, he should be able to spot this flank out.
Yep, BrokenBlade, the lens is there, and away he walks. Maybe the wrong target here as the Dragon now spawns. All G2 need is something to stop this Red Bull Baron power play.
But look at the levels as well. Like, you know, Yike's not even level 13 yet. He needs one more creeper. He needs a bit of experience to get that level up. Caps a full level down against ShowMaker. BrokenBlade 2 levels down, close to level 16.
True.
The flank, though, coming in from BrokenBlade.
And look who's there. It's Deft by himself. Dominus now pop looking for Deft, and to stun him up, he cleanses the way, but BrokenBlade has brought the Armada to him, flashes away. He might have done his job as he goes golden, but he should be dying here, but Slice and Dice, he's out of there. But hang on, he needs the reset, and he can't find it. However, now with the Dragon up and the Renata ulti out, it might be okay as G2 bring it to a 50-50 and win it out. Ocean Soul there, as Yike, some reason, flashes upward, but G2 have a permanent buff in this game as there is also a grave labeled out for Mikyx as he drops down again.
That's 3 members dead, though, and Dplus have all 5 members alive with the Baron buff still for another 1 minute and 20 seconds. There's no reason why they shouldn't look to try and siege right now. Yes, G2 do get the soul. They can buy themselves a little bit more time, but I feel like Dplus, I'm a little surprised that they chose to go and catch that bot wave. I really thought they could have done some serious damage to the base of G2, but instead they're looking to catch those waves. Crucially, in that last fight, Hans Sama's ultimate went wide.
Yep.
I think he expected the flash out from Deft, but look at this, great damage comes from BrokenBlade initially. But look at the ultimate here from Hans. He's expecting that flash, but Deft's holding his ground. He flashes upwards while the rest of Dplus come to the assistance of BrokenBlade. The snipe then connects. And G2, while they do get the Drake, Dplus return in kind by getting themselves 3 kills.
And now might continue on as Caps is caught out between his 2. Turret Shockwave's there, but it's late. There's the Magnet Storm. Chains the corruption. The Shockwave eventually comes through to correct myself as Caps flashes. No! Deft with the timing's huge. Kellin gets him out of position. I'm not sure Deft should have died, but if it comes to 1-for-1.
Impressive play there by Caps. In a 4 versus 1, he's able to trade Deft for his own life. It should have just been him going down there, but he makes it work somehow. Are they looking for the TP flank? Yes, they are.
Well, again, if they can win this, G2 might be able to flip things again as Yike sends out the ulti. Dominus from BrokenBlade on the side. Canyon caught on the wing here. ShowMaker puts up his turret, but it won't save Canyon's life. He's buying a bit of time, and ShowMaker starts ordering away, but remember, they have Ocean Soul as another cash in for Hans. Some of the flash from BrokenBlade. It's a pulverize, but Kellin can't do a thing. Out goes ShowMaker. In goes G2. And we've swung again.
It's chaos. G2 versus Dplus. This is what fans have wanted for so long. It's chaotic. It's all over the place. But G2, they found their window. This time, Dplus was spread apart. They had 2 members mid, 2 members bot. They tried to siege onto that bot tier 2, and Yike saw a window. He threw the ultimate down. But before we even got to that, Caps makes this miracle play happen.
Yeah.
He lands the shockwave onto Deft. The damage is insane. He stopwatches to buy time. Flash close, great reactions from Deft. But then he still gets the kill.
The ball sitting there waiting. Shutdown for shutdown. As Vedius, this was the aftermath.
And then Yike with the ultimate. Kellin is zoned away by the Maokai ultimate. 2 versus 4 here. At this point, you just kind of have to count your losses. Canna should have been pushing in mid, but he comes back because he thinks maybe with ShowMaker still alive, we can turn something here. But the flash in from BrokenBlade. Kellin has taken too much damage. And the fight once again goes in favor of G2. As Mikyx has been finding some nice bindings.
Yeah.
Handshake, I think the ability is called.
Yes, it is.
And it drags you back in. And G2 will definitely take that handshake.
I mean, Mikyx, again, the leader of G2, it feels like when you talk about the successes this year, this split especially, that bot lane still coming up clutch. It was another cash in, by the way. I think 600 extra gold. There's 4 items on this Draven with a stopwatch. Hun Summer, he's been getting so much money this game. And every time it looks like G2 are out or they misstep, then they come back in, and Hun Summer is the one that benefits. So now with 3K again, as this game goes on, remember the Ocean Soul in their back pocket. We also look towards the next Baron, the Elder that comes up in 2 minutes. We're going in late territory. Yike flashes in for a twisted advance. Now pops the ulti, but where's that going, bruh? Not too sure as G2 get poked down from range, and Yike hit me with that ulti.
They get the flash out from Canna, but it costs Mikyx and Yike's flash. BrokenBlade now in danger. He's trying to escape, but I don't think he can get
But
very
he has
far.
Ocean Soul. It depends. Can anyone help him out? The biggest question there is they all come in. He's going to be going into GA, though, for the time being. G2 say, no, you're too far away. The Hun Summer ulti giving leverage, but he gets out on his own. And DK pull back for now after pulling out the GA.
The Shojin working wonders there for BrokenBlade, giving him so much mobility on the E. Chaos. It is absolutely chaos. There are good things and there are some really bad things from both sides, but it is delivering in some super entertaining league. Yike will begin the Baron. G2, for the love of God, don't let this one go.
It's going to flip again, isn't it? Well, maybe if DK aren't there, it won't be a flip. As Yike sticks on it, Baron's going to go down this time. No harm, no foul as Caps gets poked in. ShowMaker teleported in for this play, but G2 still hovering around looking for a pick themselves.
Dplus.
They just got to get out there. It feels there's the poke coming through. Nailed down in the corner as well. Cap zones him out. Chains of Corruption doesn't connect again. Yike's ulti to zone out has been fantastic as G2 are heading the wrong way.
They're being corralled into the base of Dplus, but they have the Baron buff. They can get away to safety. If we'd gone back 10 minutes, I could tell you it was the same goal difference. It was G2 in this position. Oh my word. Hysterics, 30 seconds until the Elder Dragon. It's going to come down to that.
Yep.
One more fight to determine the outcome of this game. Whew.
And I'm not sold either way on who wins this, Betty.
Oh, neither am I. It really could go either way.
So, let's quickly clarify. Poking out for DK, is it still as relevant with Ocean Soul? Or are we just going to have to see them find a beautiful pick? Maybe it'll answer for me as Canyon zones off. BrokenBlade first in line, though. The charge continues on in as G2 look to make their way in with Elder now spawning.
The poke is doing what it can, but you make a great point about the Ocean Soul. The regeneration is coming up clutch for G2. The Elder is alive. Look at that mid wave, though, for Dplus.
Yep.
Pushing into the mid. TP is not available for ShowMaker or Canna, but Canna could cook. Especially with the Dragon not being started yet. ShowMaker trying to leverage his ring. The TP flank!
Oh, it's a big one as well. That will be onto ShowMaker. He's got the flash and ulti available, though, so it'll be hard to find the pick as Yike sets up with an Aegis grasp. Sets him into position. BrokenBlade runs in with the Magnet Storm. Zones him out as Kellin looks for a flank angle and Canyon flashes out. Now, G2 have separated DK away from this Elder Dragon.
Dplus is very scattered right now. Canyon has no flash available to him. But again, they're still very hesitant to start this Elder off.
They are. Mikyx wants to a handshake from behind. There's Caps on top as well. Kellin gets poked out.
But that should be the go signal to at the very least start a fight.
Yep.
Kellin losing all of his HP. Didn't use the ultimate yet. Mikyx.
That's a big ulti as well. They've got to get away from it. Canyon the only one hit and enough space is drawn.
Here we go. It's being started.
But as you said, Kellin's still too low. The handshake zoning out, the poke coming through. G2 aren't letting them walk in, but Canna has an influence from the top side.
Look at the lifesteal from Hansama though.
Well, hang on, Kellin's just walking into danger though. Hansama cashes in. Kellin is meat to the slaughter again as that whirling death hurts. And thank you, says G2, for giving us the Elder Dragon.
They weather the storm from Dplus. They're able to mitigate the poke. Kellin with his low HP still tries to find a flank. He gives up his life. And Hansama now leading the charge. Elder Dragon G2, Baron buffed up. 5 more seconds. Will they finally break into the base?
Well, anyone's guess here as the Baron, the Red Bull Baron power plays 4,500 with G2 almost moving to 10,000 themselves. There goes the inhibitor. G2 thinking about the push and using that Elder timer, but they pull off for now. The game will go a little bit longer to see if they can get a more solid fight.
Whew. Wow.
What up here?
The crazy thing is, I still see a way in which Dplus can turn this around. This game is far from over. Obviously, G2 in a much more commanding position with the Elder, with the gold lead that they have. And a big...
Ooh. Almost.
I was going to say, a big shout out to Caps. He's the only player that this game that didn't receive any support. No roams into the mid lane from either support or jungle. He's kind of been roaming himself, looking for opportunities. When he was getting collapsed on bot, he was still able to turn it into 1-for-1.
Yep.
And in team fights, he's been so patient as well, making sure that he's in the right position to land those crucial ultimates. He's really stepping up here in game 1. But let's see if G2 can finally close this out, because Hysterics, until the Nexus falls, I won't believe that G2 have won.
Yeah, we ain't cursing it again, that's for sure. On your note about Caps, by the way, I mean, the reason that they got Elder was Caps, you know, onto Kellin, that poke damage that came through. So significant. And coming in clutch, I've always wanted to cast Claps. I'm glad it's not the other one. You know, I know there's been some confusion through the year. That's a sapling, ladies and gentlemen. Bit of AP coming through from Yike.
That is a flat 50%.
That's been burning for 10 years. Stop it. How much longer must he suffer? Well, Yike makes sure it's a little bit longer to send him to the base. As G2 off that, say there's a free rotation to the top side.
20 seconds till the Elder disappears. Then the Baron is alive in a minute's time.
The third Baron.
G2, the third Baron.
Or is it the fourth?
It's the fourth Baron.
I can't count. But with the last pick of the Elder, once more, Yike sends out nature. The Ents of the Forest don't find their mark, but at least it zones out for a second inhibitor, so the base is in complete tatters by DK.
I am very jet lagged. This game is only making me more tired, Hysterics.
Oh, really?
At first, I thought the first Baron play was just me delusional, you know?
What am I seeing?
But now, I am very much awake.
So I don't know if I trust the 4. You said there's been 4.
There is.
Are you sure? Or am I the one who's delusional?
I'm delusional.
I don't know.
There was the one that got stolen.
Yep.
Then Dplus took one for free.
Oh, yep.
Then G2 got one for free.
And,
now this is the 4th one.
You're right. Wow. I'm being outclassed by someone with jet lag. And I came from Australia. It's like 2 hours away. Over the wall, Mikyx might be caught out. Hang on a minute, this Renata separated, but it might be okay. Magnet Storm out, but that Renata ulti is insane. Running forward is BrokenBlade to zone out as DK is still looking for that clutch factor, but Hansama won't let Kellin anywhere near. Go back to the farm. G2 zoning them out continuously, and they might have it, Vedius. They might just with the shockwave, bringing back the playmaker. Hansama getting all the money, but Caps is getting my heart.
MVP Mikyx. He sees the angle, the choke point. BrokenBlade looks into the eyes of the reigning world champion and says, today is not your day. He'll force him into the G8, and they're looking for the Nexus.
The first seed from the LEC holds on to their namesake. It was back and forth. It was a little bit messy, but hey, G2, they're versatile, they're volatile, and they're starting 1-0 in the Swiss stage against the LCK4.
What a crazy game. It was so dominant for G2 in the early game. Hans Sommer's Draven was terrifying. But the moment, well, we saw two examples. Canyon's great engage around that second dragon, into then the Baron steal that came out as well. What an insane back and forth. What a crazy debut for your first Worlds cast.
Hey, absolute banger as well. G2 deserve this bow. As all you can say is, EU had high expectations, and Vetis, I'm glad they're hitting it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to send it back over to the desk to break down G2 versus Dplus.
Thank you so much. My nerves aren't shot at all. I never doubted them.
Not one
not
moment.
once, not one moment.
What
no.
a game. Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Crazy. I mean, you don't even really have like a stake in it, right? Because it wasn't an LCS team, so I think you can be an honest judge of how exciting that game was.
I really wanted the Dplus and G2 rivalry to be alive and well, and it is.
It is.
You know?
6-5 all time now.
Back and forth so much. The Dragons end up making a really big difference with the Ocean Soul healing coming in clutch. Man, Kellin had a rough game, though, from Dplus for sure.
I think G2 should actually be very happy about this, because in this volatile best-of-1 Swiss format, to have a Baron throw happen and still win is very confidence-inspiring. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, let's look at the Baron throw, actually, now that we're mentioning it.
Yeah, because that one really threw me for a loop. I don't think this game should have lasted as long as it did, because I think that the Dplus in the early game were unable to match anything, and then you flip against Rell, who, of all junglers, like not even going by the fact that it's Canyon, right, that you're playing against, Rell is so insanely good at stealing objectives and clumping up in the pit behind the Baron, of all parts, right? Oh, the Baron is just shredding you with the spikes.
Just why?
So
Why?
I think that made the series a lot longer, but for me, right, as an LCK representative, 10 minutes in,
it just felt like one of the bad DK games.
Yeah, it felt like the DK
G2 were stopping.
No, DK was just all around worse. The fact that they were kept in the game by, I think, G2 with one bad call doesn't take away from the fact that for DK fans, I think they were looking and hoping that the regional qualifier form would be maintained. In the case of at least Kellin, and I'd argue some of the drafting woes that they've had throughout the year, those issues still very much there.
Well, thankfully, G2 are entertainers at heart, and so they do throw at the Baron.
why.
They do make it a banger.
You know, they have this, they say it's for the content. You
Yeah.
know, they need every Worlds, they need like a wombo combo where they just get completely rolled over, but
I will say one huge thing is that we have heard so much about, you know, the Draven getting all these bans and how crazy it is in scrims. That thing was terrifying. So for G2 to do that in game number 1, you can have long-lasting effects on the pick ban for the rest of the tournament as well.
And it also crowned Hans Sommer as our Oppo player of the game. And Jada was, as Kobe says, you know, you see why it gets banned so often, and it's such a classic for Hans Sommer, and I'll be really happy with his return to Worlds on that champ.
And a really impressive first blood here, knowing he's hit 6. Kellin hasn't yet. Basically instantly executing him while he's at 75% health, and it just felt like he wasn't really dropping any axes the entire game, no matter what they were doing. So amazing performance by Hans Sommer Draven here.
Yeah, wonderful. You know, there were some question marks. Sorry, I had something in my ear. Some question marks about him coming back, of course, and I think a lot of people have said, well, it didn't really mean anything that he couldn't do what he wanted to do in NA. There were a lot of reasons for that, but he really wanted to show that he could do it.
I mean, the big thing for me as well is that obviously afterwards the team was playing around him as they should, but the big thing for me is that was already starting level 1. They abused the fact Alistar obviously level 1 non-existent. They went completely all in on Hans actually being able to deliver on the champion. And then when he got the solo, without any jungle attention, anyone else helping him, you already secured the first big cash-in, right? So even if he did end up, if you end up going down, which did end up happening in the Dragon fight where Canyon and ShowMaker had a great engage, it doesn't end up mattering nearly as much. And you can see as well that once you get that first cash-in, you feel so much more secure on the Draven. And the Dragons were another big thing that we were just the three of us were just looking at, because look at the... Does it feel like Dplus did that amount of damage at any point?
This is the sneaky Ocean Soul advantage.
Yeah.
I don't think it was sneaky.
The poke didn't do anything because of the Ocean Soul. That was so clutch about this game, actually. When G2 did get the Baron stolen, they continued to keep their priority up on the Dragons to get the Ocean Soul, and it was maybe the difference in the game.
Yeah, and I want to circle back as we close out the segment, Jat, to what you said. You know, you said at the beginning of the segment, if G2 wants to call themselves or wants to hold themselves to a high standard in this World Championship, this is a team they have to beat. And it is good that they didn't let that setback completely derail their game.
Absolutely. They crushed this early game. And then they also got to challenge their late game, too. It's like 2 games, 2 wins in 1, because they won the early game and the late game.
I'm just happy that they got a win, okay? It was not stressful at all.
Never doubted.
Never doubted them. Not 1 second. You weren't in a green room with me. In any case, we will talk to Hansama, and that will come right after the break, so we'll be right back.
Yeah, Azir sitting us out, so back up,
Guys, I can flash, look!
Okay. Yeah, stop watch.
Just kill front. Guys, yes.
Yeah.
Nice. You guys, good job.
Nice
Good
one.
job. Guys,
Good job,
good luck, guys.
Oh, nice.
Well played. Nice pivot.